pathological acceleration of self-harm through social isolation, neurobiological and behavioral mechanisms. Isolating an individual who engages in self-harm significantly worsens psychological outcomes through distinct neurological and behavioral mechanisms. From a clinical and neurobiological perspective, forced or systemic social isolation acts as a severe psychological stressor that accelerates the underlying pathology of self-harm. Neurobiological impacts. Hyperactivation of the HPA axis. Social isolation triggers the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, causing a chronic release of cortisol. This prolonged stress response impairs prefrontal cortex function, reducing cognitive flexibility and executive control. Endogenous opioid downregulation. Non-suicidal self-injury is often used to regulate intense emotional pain by triggering the release of endorphins. Isolating an individual deprives them of the social reward pathways mediated by oxytocin and dopamine, increasing the biological drive to use self-harm to achieve chemical emotional regulation. Altered pain processing. Studies in social neuroscience demonstrate that social rejection and physical pain share overlapping neural circuits, specifically within the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. The distress of isolation can lower the physical pain threshold or increase analgesia during high-stress states, making self-harm more frequent. Psychological and behavioral mechanisms. Loss of co-regulation. Humans rely on interpersonal interactions for emotional co-regulation. Removing a social support network forces an individual to rely entirely on the internal coping strategies. If their primary strategy is self-harm, the frequency and severity of the behavior typically rise. The rebound effect of shame. Self-harm is heavily linked to severe internal shame or guilt. External isolation validates the individual's negative self-schemas, i.e., I am broken or I am a burden, accelerating a cycle where emotional distress triggers self-harm, leading to more shame and further withdrawal. Heightened habituation. According to the interpersonal theory of suicide, continuous isolation increases feelings of thwarted belongingness and perceived burdensomeness. When combined with unmonitored, repetitive self-harm, it increases physical habituation to pain and tissue damage, dangerously elevating the statistical risk of accidental or intentional lethality. Clinical trajectory. Medical literature consistently demonstrates that punitive or protective isolation yields counterproductive clinical outcomes. Rather than extinguishing the behavior, removing human connection strips away the primary environmental buffers against psychiatric distress, converting an acute coping mechanism into a deeply entrenched behavioral dependency. This is not my practitioner, and they are using dark psychology and abusive psychological practice to intentionally inflict emotional distress in me in order to cause the self-harm and the depression, to make it look as if I'm dependent upon them and keep me in this situation. I did not consent to that practitioner, and they are absolutely abusing authority to isolate and torture.